moment, how will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again? The sweet emotion raining all over me.
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again. Making black new.
Hello, my fellow patriots, and welcome to Audit the Vote newsroom. I am your host, Tony Shoup. I wish you guys could see me dancing backstage to that. It gets more and more exciting the closer we're getting to January 20th. Do you believe it? We are 5 days. I see you, Lola Days, 5 days away from something that is still just, it's settling in the reality that we did it. We actually did it. I do have a very special guest this evening. Captain Seth Keshel is going to join us. He did a very in-depth report on Pennsylvania, the 2024 win that Pennsylvania pulled out. His analysis, of course, his brain is just, the speed at which his brain calculates numbers is just, I don't even know a word to describe it. It's disturbing, but in a good way, if that makes sense, at how good he is at just analyzing numbers and voter trends. And looking forward to getting him on here and sharing a bunch of his information with you, because the work truly is just getting started. I know that we've got a big win we're looking forward to celebrate, but we are just getting started. Please like, share, and subscribe in whatever platform it is that you are watching us on. Hit the bell so you can be notified when we go live. We are going to do this on a weekly basis. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern is what I have settled on, and I'm going to look forward to sharing with you my thoughts on everything that's going on. What is Audit the Vote up to? What is Patriot Academy up to? As much as I can possibly have Karen Taylor with me, I will. She is nursing sick kiddos home tonight, so pray for them that they get healthy quickly. And Joel, let me know as soon as Seth pops in. We will just pull him right on screen and go right into his report. He's here. You made it, my friend. Welcome to the Audit the Vote newsroom. How are you?
Well, first off, you ought to know better than to text me the link to your StreamYard. You should just send it straight to my Telegram. So the reason for my delay was having to juggle systems. A couple things for your audience. Number one, that is a nice shed. It hasn't changed since the day we did an episode together in that shed.
Yes, we did.
Number two, who told you all along that Trump was going to win Pennsylvania?
I was just thinking that. I'll never forget. We did an event in Erie and we were standing in the back and you were like, they can't steal it. You understand. And I was like, no, but you were right. You were dead on right.
Yep. And I called it at Trump plus 2.8. It wound up at Trump plus 1.7 because Bob Casey didn't want to leave the Senate.
Wow. And your predictions, I think nationwide were spot on, weren't they? I think you got.
There are 56 different races for electoral votes. So that's the 50 states with their statewide vote. Then you've got Washington, D.C., and then you have the 5 split electoral districts of Maine and Nebraska. And I called all 56 to the correct winner. And when you go through my margins, some of them were shockingly tight, shockingly close. My closest swing state pick was Nevada. Second closest was Arizona.
Dang.
Now, of course, this is still skewed because I believe that the cheating in this election was still there, but it was more selective so as not to give someone with an 87 IQ more than 81 million votes.
It's shocking to me, people that still don't see it though. Do you come across people that are still like 2020 was fine. It was totally fine. Like,
not really. You know, now we're 2 elections in the tank now since then, 2020 and 2024. I think that most people have moved on from either being offended that you said the 2020 election was rigged. I'm sure more people believe today that the 2020 election was rigged than on November the 4th, 2 months ago. But it's not even a topic of interest really anymore because Trump won. I think one of the bigger dangers right now is that people lose sight of election integrity because Trump won. Amen. I can look at the down ballot. There's 3, if not 4, Senate races that were ripped off underneath Trump with the weeks of counting, and I singled out 4 really bad House steals. God knows how many there actually are when you can get into the nitty gritty on that. But a mistake would be for us to lose sight of election integrity just because Trump won, because we will really be no different than we were in 2017 when everybody spent 4 years making memes and the Democrats spent 4 years figuring out how to get Trump out of office.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Well, we've only got you, I know, for 30 minutes, which I really appreciate you taking your time. We're hoping to make Seth a regular on our show. So we've got him for 30 minutes, and he did an incredible deep dive into Pennsylvania's election, put out a report on his Substack. If you are not following his Substack, highly recommend it. Seth, what's the handle on that? How do they find you on Substack?
skeshel.substack.com.
Very good. Follow him. He does all kind of articles, in-depth analysis, of course, with his data, but he's a really good writer, very humorous. I always enjoy reading his stuff. But so take through that report that you did on Pennsylvania, and then Joel has all the slides you sent me. So you want to call up maybe what you want him to show as you're talking. But yeah, talk to us about Pennsylvania, your 2024 analysis.
Let's pull up the registration chart of all 67 counties.
That's probably the first one that you sent me, I think.
It is. They're all in order.
Beautiful.
Not that one. Down at the bottom, next to last. Right there.
Nice.
All right. So the first section of my overview of Pennsylvania, just like every state. So I talked about my prediction. So the outcome, the certified outcome of Pennsylvania was Trump plus 1.7%. That's 120,000 plus votes. The prediction I made was Trump plus 2.8, 194,000, which was more accurate on election night. And understand now with 2 elections in the bag since Trump's first election, I think that there's a lot of cheating baked in because since Trump was first elected, Pennsylvania has gone to Act 77, which allows for no excuse mail-in balloting. And you have rules and laws against ballot harvesting. But as I wrote in my report on Pennsylvania, ballot harvesting is definitely happening in population dense areas where there's nobody there to enforce anything. Not that there's really strict penalties in Pennsylvania anyway. But in the preface, I assessed Pennsylvania through 2020's lens and into 2024, where on paper, there is no way that Trump doesn't win Pennsylvania. It is just it's a slam dunk, like 2 + 2 = 4. Why? Because in 2008, it was Democrat high point. Barack Obama won by over 10 points. It was the biggest landslide in Pennsylvania since 1964 when LBJ won it by an enormous margin. And since then, Pennsylvania has begun shifting Republican by voter registration. So voter registration by party is the most accurate indicator of the trajectory of the next election by percentage margin, which is almost always the same as percentage in margin of votes as well, depending on turnout.
How did you come? That's good, but how did you come to that conclusion? How can we be sure that that's the case? I agree with you, but
okay. So I've already quantified the 2024 election. There are 30 states that register voters by party. 30 states, and 29 of the 30 states became more Republican in their registration or less Democrat. So 29 of 30 states that register voters by party improved for the Republican Party. The only one that did not was Colorado, which went to the left by 1/20th of a point, 0.05. So it went from D plus 2.69 to D plus 2.74. It was 2.9 about 2 weeks before the election, and then the registrations favored the GOP towards Election Day. And even though Colorado blew a little bit to the left in registration, it actually went 2.5 points to the right in the vote. I think that was more of a product of not doing as much harvesting as was done in 2020, therefore bringing down the Democrat vote total. But 29 out of 30 states this year followed their party registration trend. With Colorado supposed to go left, it went right. So 29 out of 30 followed the party registration trend. And then when I broke it down by county, 86% of counties followed their party registration indicator. And a lot of the misses were in states like Oklahoma, Nebraska, or Kansas, where you're talking about Republican plus 88% counties that were 87.5 this time because they're losing population. So that's not an organic trend. So pretty much everything out east, Florida was 67 for 67, Arizona was 15 for 15, New Hampshire 10 out of 10. We're going to get into Pennsylvania. But long story short, Pennsylvania tapered down to within 6 points for Romney versus Obama. Romney didn't do a whole lot of gaining. He was still short of George Bush's 04 totals from 8 years before. It was Obama dropping more than 300,000 votes, tightening the margin. But the state had shifted about a point more Republican in registration because both parties lost and the Democrats lost more once Obama was elected the first time. Then in 2015-16, when Trump emerged in the Republican Party, people began registering as Republican to vote for Trump in the primary. So Pennsylvania began a hard right shift beginning in Trump's first run. Pennsylvania moved 3 points more Republican in the 2016 registration numbers, suggesting it was going to be tighter than Romney-Obama race within 5, and Trump flipped it. And then one of the key tells of the 2020 steal, another 3 points more Republican by registrations, 21-1 ratio for the GOP. And of course, after 4 days of counting, they called Pennsylvania for Joe Biden, who went past Barack Obama's 08 vote total in a state that is now losing population, while Trump was also past it. And since then, Pennsylvania had an even deeper cut towards the GOP. It was more than 4 points this time. So Pennsylvania was D plus 7.5. You can see it there in the last column. 7.5% more Democrats than Republicans registered in 2020 when Trump should have blown it out. And then in 2024, it was only D plus 3.1 on Election Day. And if you want to really get excited right now, it's D plus 2.3. So this burn is continuing. Now, Pennsylvania also has Pennsylvania's Secretary of State's office publishes registration data weekly. And you can see Scott Pressler putting numbers out like that too, because he follows it. But it's now D plus 2.3 in total registration. But if you go to active registrations, it's only D plus 1.3. So active registrations are almost even in the state. So 67 counties in Pennsylvania, and 64 of them became more Republican by party registration since 2020 or less Democrat, even Chester County. So the only 3 counties that were suggesting that they may move to the left in the vote were the 3 that moved towards Democrats. We're looking at Delaware County. They're from D plus 11 to D plus 14. Montgomery County, D plus 15 to, well, really less than a half a point move to the left. And then you have Cumberland County, which is a Republican county in central Pennsylvania that must have a high percentage of college educated or post-grad voters there living in the suburbs of Harrisburg. And that one tracked normal, but Delaware and Montgomery actually became more Republican. Why? I believe it's because the ballot harvesting machine wasn't fully engaged. And I've also given my opinion that I think Josh Shapiro might have had very little interest in letting Harris win or using his ballot harvesting networks to make sure she won, because her losing is his best bet for 2027 or 28, saying he's the only guy that can carry Pennsylvania. But Pennsylvania looked like a Trump win just in party registration numbers here, especially in Philadelphia County, where there's a big voter roll purge that knocked tens of thousands of advantage away for the Dems.
Well, and the reason I asked that first question, Seth, I think it's important for the audience to know, if we're going to continue in this fight, we have to know what we're talking about. And I met with countless election officials that when I tried to explain this information to them, they said to me, well, registration trends, what does that tell us? We really don't know until we find out on election day. And you just spit out a ton of facts that shows, no, there's a really good trend here, and we can trust that the registration does predict the outcome typically. And so that's why I wanted you to go through that. Feel free to reach out to Seth if you want him to get involved, meet with any elected officials. I hope it's okay. I'm throwing this out there because what he just spit out is gold. And as hard as I try and pride myself on being a decent communicator, I can't spit it out like he does. And we did get him on the phone with several county commissioners, and he's been talking to state reps in Pennsylvania. They need to be aware of this stuff, that it's going on, and he is willing and able to help us. So let's take advantage of that. Yes, skeshel.substack.com. Consider becoming a paid subscriber so that he can continue this fight. Doesn't have to go back and get like a 9-to-5 day job just to pay the bills, but that he can stay on the ground with us working towards transparent elections. All right, keep going. What's next?
All right, so let's go to the one with the chart with the little green highlight on the bottom, right there. Second one, up, right there. All right, so just to give you an idea of how accurate the party registration index is. So New Jersey has 21 counties. All 21 counties became more Republican. This is in the vote. This is Trump's performance, not the registration. So New Jersey registration had 18 moving right, 21 went right, including the 3 that were moving left. Gloucester County, right outside Philly, was a big indicator. He flipped that. He flipped several counties in New Jersey. New York has 62 counties, and 59 voted stronger for Trump or less strong for Harris, and 55 had moved right by registration. So New York outperformed also his registration. West Virginia, 54 counties moved right, 55 counties total. And that tracked with the registrations were 55 out of 55. We had one depopulating county that spat out a smaller margin. Maryland, 23 counties out of 24 moving to the right. It surpassed what voter registration said would happen. Ohio doesn't do party registration by county, but 85 out of 88 counties in Ohio, which is somewhat of a political cousin to Pennsylvania, moved to the right. Now, Pennsylvania, though, only 54 counties voted more Republican than they did in 2020. So that's only 81%. So, in fact, of the ones that moved to the right by less than 1 point, Pennsylvania had 14 counties like that. So there were some counties that did move right, but they dragged along barely to the right. You can see these other states had very few counties that were within a 1% move. So what this tells me is that, and go to the map right below it, right below this graphic. So this is Pennsylvania here. Anything in light green is where Harris has fewer votes than Joe Biden. Anything in dark green is fewer votes than Hillary. So we're going way back. So Philly's the only county like that. So Philly didn't get the attention like it needed for her to be competitive in the state. But you can see there in Ohio that pretty much anything bordering West Virginia or Pennsylvania in Ohio is in the dark green shade. So those working class counties, Harris is below Hillary's 2016 vote total. In Mahoning County, Ohio, which is a key Democrat working class stronghold that is usually only won by Republicans in landslides, there are fewer Democrat votes there than any election since 1928. Now, look at upstate New York there, right on the northern end of Pennsylvania. You can see losses all around. And then Maryland, we do have some gains there. This is Fredericksburg, Hagerstown, Maryland area. Look, Pennsylvania in the blue, these are Harris gains over Biden. She's got more votes than Joe Biden. In that light blue, you're looking at anywhere from 1 vote to 1,999 votes. I've created 3 different strata of vote gains. So don't get too lost in those numbers. A lot of these are just small gains. And a lot of those light greens are very, very small losses too. You've got some tier 2 gains also, like in Westmoreland County and in Butler County, and then down there in Cumberland, Lancaster, and York counties as well. And I pegged York and Lancaster counties as well as Westmoreland as major cheat fests in 2020. And it looks to me like they've not only maintained their ability to produce those amounts of ballots, but built on them despite Trump's own gains. So looking at this map here, it's amazing. We have 0 gains, 0 organic energy for Harris in upstate New York or West Virginia or in Ohio or in New Jersey. But all throughout Pennsylvania, we've got Harris gains, especially in the center of the state. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go to the third one up. Down. Up, 2 more, 2 up. All right, so this is what has to happen in Pennsylvania. they have to get all their votes out of the Philly area. Western Pennsylvania, even with Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, is largely put in check because almost everything else is so overwhelmingly Trumpy now. With the shift in play, Philadelphia County is losing its clout a bit like Cuyahoga County, Ohio, Cleveland, back when Ohio was a swing state. Nothing else is supporting Philadelphia. You look at Obama's 2008 map, Obama won a ton of counties that are now overwhelmingly Republican. He even won Berks County, which voted for Trump by a mile. And by the way, Berks County has a lot of Puerto Ricans in it, and Berks County became substantially more Trumpy this year. So that was also a hoax, the Puerto Rico hoax. Look here at the margins. See that Trump was about even with his 2016 performance in these 5 Philadelphia counties. We're talking about Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, and Philly. So he was 4,000 votes worse off in the 2024 numbers than he was in 2016 when he won. And the other 62 counties are substantially more Republican now. So that was the difference here, shaving almost 100,000 margin out of the Philly area. And most of that came right out of Philadelphia County. So you can see there that the population dense areas, some of this is organic. Trump had a solid vote gain in Philly County of his own. So when you're in an overwhelming county for a Democrat and you get a solid gain, that's because people that used to vote Democrat voted for you. I don't think there's a whole lot of South Dakota right-wingers that moved into Philadelphia County here in the last 4 years. Then you've got Montgomery County. Trump improved by over 15,000 margin in Montgomery County, improved by over 10,000 in Delaware, and improved by almost 7,000 in Chester, and flipped Bucks County. Now, Bucks County's margin should be substantially larger than that because Bucks was arguably, where we're not talking about the giant counties of the state, Philly and Allegheny. Bucks was probably the ugliest county that we publicly exposed, with their county commissioner talking about how she wants to approve these phony provisionals. You even had Democrats complaining about how bad Bob Casey was making them look with not accepting his election outcome. And I was not impressed with Dave McCormick being unwilling to get down in the dirt with that when they were busy stealing his race.
Yep. So let me, a couple things on that. Philadelphia, interesting that you talk about the 100,000 that they were able to weasel out of Philadelphia, or I should say in a good way, weasel out of Philadelphia. Something I don't think we can attribute this solely to the early voting efforts or the chasing mail ballots. I'm not saying that the turnout didn't have something to do with it, but what most people outside of Pennsylvania don't know is that there was a law passed before the 2022 midterms called Act 88, which prohibited counties from stopping their vote count. Also required the county to report how many outstanding mail-in ballots they had left to count by 8 p.m. on election day, so that they couldn't just find the ballots throughout the week. And if you all remember correctly, there was supposedly a truck that pulled up in Philly, a U-Haul truck with ballots. None of this was confirmed. There was no deep dive investigation, but there were rumors that they were going to make a ballot dump. Because of Act 88 and a lot of the eyes on it, they were not able to get away with that this time. I think that had a significant outcome effect on the outcome. So I just wanted to point that out. It's interesting how your numbers do show that Philadelphia was different this time, and that law did prohibit them from doing a lot of the same shenanigans they pulled back in 2020. So keep going, Captain.
Yeah, and let's go to the very bottom slide. So we had that margin in Philly, Trump minus 667, 646. And then I've got the other 62 counties outside of that core Philly area highlighted here. Trump improved his margins by 104,000 in the rest of Pennsylvania. So that was enough to swing. The swing in Pennsylvania was 201,000 roughly. So that's where Trump is at. So Trump blew it out in the rest of PA with his biggest margin yet, and shaved margin in Philadelphia. Now, I will say a lot of his improvements in Pennsylvania were in eastern Pennsylvania. Like I said, out of those 13 counties that drifted left, a lot of them were in central and western Pennsylvania, where you have even in Warren County, Harris has more votes than Joe Biden has, where Trump won Warren County by fewer votes than he won against Joe Biden in the 2020 election, despite a massive GOP trend. That's just one example. But a lot of his biggest gains were in eastern Pennsylvania, with some of the more traditional, the traditional Democrat base of Pennsylvania was out in western PA. And the old school Republican base was down in the collar counties of Philly. That was Montgomery County back when it voted Republican, which was one of the strongest Republican counties in the country until the 90s. But things have switched a bit. So now those counties out in Western PA that even Reagan couldn't win, Trump wins them easily. But some of the ones in northeastern Pennsylvania, we're looking at Northampton County, Luzerne, Lackawanna County. Those were your hardcore Union Democrat strongholds. And Trump almost won Lehigh County. He flipped and won the bellwether counties of Erie and Northampton. And there's a lot of minority vote there. He did better with the Puerto Rican vote for sure, other Latino vote and black male vote. And of course, he had a higher share of the white working class, which is the key vote there in Pennsylvania. But 788 margin in the counties outside of Philly, that is definitely short. And I still think that the crown for most fraudulent votes in Pennsylvania goes to Allegheny County. And Harris had almost the exact vote tally in Allegheny County this time around that she had last time. It was extremely tight. And I think that when I ran an analysis of Allegheny County, so understand like in elections, Midwestern industrial blue collar county, Allegheny County is not a crazy lib county like you're going to find out in the Bay Area of California. It has some, and it's a city. Then it's got some urban minority vote in it. But by and large, Allegheny County is a blue collar industrial hub. And it's also not really growing in population. So you should find a consistent number of votes that are going to be there. Well, Harris did lag Joe Biden in Allegheny County by a couple hundred votes. She had almost his exact vote tally, which tells me that they know how to go on data and find the registrations and match mail-in ballots and harvest them up in the population dense areas. But if you look at other industrial counties in the exact same region, in Buffalo, New York, so Erie County, New York, or if you look at Cuyahoga County in Ohio, Cleveland, massive Democrat collapse. Look at Lucas County, Toledo, Ohio, Democrat collapse. Go look at Marion County, Indiana, Indianapolis. There's a Democrat collapse. You can go to Detroit, Wayne County, Democrat collapse. Cook County, Chicago, Illinois. Lake County, Gary, Indiana, massive Democrat collapse. But there in Allegheny County, she's even to Joe Biden, who had an extremely unreliably high vote count in 2020. So I think that Allegheny County, even though she technically lagged Biden in the county for votes and Trump finished a smidge better off in the county, I think that Allegheny County is probably the capital of massively disparate cheating to the statistical relationships in Pennsylvania.
We have evidence on Allegheny County that would make your head spin. The director of elections is on record in one of the court hearings saying he was aware that ballots were scanned twice and counted twice in the 2020 election. And the county actually wiped that from the transcript when it was received. But we have eyewitnesses that heard them say it. We do have CVRs from Allegheny County. We're missing 60,000 ballot images from the 2020 election. 60,000 ballots. We don't know where the heck they came from. And oddly enough, look at your total there, Captain. His 120,000 vote margin that he won in 2024. Isn't it strange that Pennsylvania had 120,000 more ballots cast in 2020 than voters who participated? Odd how those numbers just line up right there.
It is. What does Sam DeMarco think about Allegheny County this year?
Sam DeMarco recently resigned and is going to work in McCormick's office.
Oh, well, that's just wonderful.
So glad I could bring you that bucket of good news. So we're going to get a new chair, hopefully, in Allegheny County, and we'll keep you posted on that. But Sam DeMarco, we're some of his favorite people, Seth. You know that, right? You and I both.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of appetite for dealing with Republicans who have no concerns about their own elections being tampered with or ripped off. I mean, even though McCormick still won the race, that's a violation of what the proper will of the voters should have been. Nobody knows what the margin is. And that's what's supposed to be great about the vote is everyone's vote matters in the percentages, and it suggests, a level of support. So they've cheapened him, held him below a majority. And now you have, somebody like Bob Casey who screams election denier at people who have valid claims won't go away and wants to count all these provisional ballots. So we have so many loose ends flapping in the wind with our elections Well, we got to wait till this vote gets in. Oh, 13 people are cast that, so we got to wait. Can't count anything else. It's just insane. You should be able to run an election just like you should be able to go into a classroom and take a vote from kids if they want pizza or if they want chicken wings or if they want, fruit roll-ups or whatever. Like this is just stupid that we can't run elections in 2025, 2024, 2025 in America.
Agree. Totally agree. A couple questions. I'll let you go because I know we're right at the 30-minute mark and I promised him would let him go in 30 minutes. I know Lola Days, how do we stop it in Allegheny County? So my question for you, Seth, if you could give any advice to an elected official of what they can focus on in the next 2 years, 4 years in Pennsylvania to maximize transparency and stop this crazy shenanigans in our election system, what would you tell elected officials in our state?
The source of election manipulation lies in the voter roll, undoubtedly. And this has become extremely clear to me. Just like when Hank found the book signed over to Walter White, where he knew that his brother-in-law was a drug kingpin. It became obvious to me. I'm talking about Breaking Bad. It sounds like you need to watch that show. But it became obvious to me looking at this, and I've always suspected this because automatic voter registration is the single biggest sign that a state is a blue state. There are 24 states that have it. Trump only won 6. And that was because he outran Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, and Georgia. But really, once a state puts automatic voter registration in, it's a matter of time until they have enough registrations in the population dense areas to be able to go collect ballots. And then they grow that to more mail-in balloting. So Pennsylvania is already there, Act 77, and then automatic voter registration. If not for the conversion of the white working class and a better minority share of the vote, Pennsylvania would be about like Minnesota, where it's mostly red, it's super conservative everywhere on the inside. And then there's these areas where all these dense areas are where you just can't get over it. And you'd have a +2, +3 Democrat state every election. So what needs to happen is voter registration needs to get fixed. I think there's federal role here. I think that Trump's DOJ is going to have to get a handle on this, and they're going to have to find agreement on this. And I would love to be part of that. But if they don't fix voter registration, then elections are tainted. And it became obvious to me, not just looking at the disparity with the blue to red states on or off of automatic voter registration, but I saw North Dakota, and North Dakota doesn't have voter registration. And North Dakota also happens to have the cleanest trend lines in the last 2 elections, Trump 2020 and Trump 2024, where there's arguably not any discernible distortion to the vote totals. I think I pegged a few thousand on the 2020 numbers, and that's within the range of tolerance where that could have definitely happened. And this year, of course, it was a bloodbath for Trump in North Dakota. Harris continues to plummet there, even though North Dakota continues to grow. So voter registration is the issue. The cleaner the registration, the better the election outcome. So red states still have voter registration, but most of them don't have automatic. Most of them don't have mail-in ballots everywhere. Arizona and Utah are a couple of exceptions, and Florida. But Florida has controls over their mail-in ballots. They changed things to where you have to request your ballot for every election. There's no more of this permanent mail-in voter nonsense, which is a problem here in Arizona. So a hegemony of voter registration, mail-in balloting, restricting or drastically reducing, and then creating a system in which vote counting cannot be hidden and it cannot be delayed and dragged on. Oh, we found a box of ballots. So I think that that's the biggest thing that can be done, because ultimately what we need is transparency. We don't have transparency, so we have no choice but to trust the results that are presented to us.
Very good. And it is our state legislature could write some legislation to stop Shapiro, force him basically to roll back his automatic, which he'll say it's not automatic. It's just when you get a driver's license, you have to opt out. But anybody that's been through it has seen how complicated they've made the questions, and very few people understand that what they're even signing away. So our state reps could put something in place that would stop that, roll that back, so we could at least get rid of that in the next 2 years. Whether or not they'll do it, I don't know. Sounds like Captain Keshel, that would be your recommendation. Any final parting thoughts before we let you go?
Sure. Well, when people go to get their license, most people are not political people, so they don't know that when they're getting a license that they're adding to a possibly fraudulent system. So you have people that are never going to vote. They're like, fine, go ahead and register me to vote. I don't have to vote anyway. They might not know that their registration can be used to earmark a mail-in ballot, go pick up the mail-in ballot. So most people aren't political. And it's supposed to be that way. Politics is supposed to be boring. People should know their freedoms and rights, and they should be attentive to issues. But ultimately, I've made my own steps to step back a little bit just off of social media, because I've spent 4 years constantly with my nose in a phone, and that's not how I want to be. But I looked up a quote. That's why I was zip, stuttering a little bit. I was looking up a quote, and it's a good one to leave the audience with. This John Adams, our second president. And he said, I must study politics and war, that my sons may have liberty to study mathematics and philosophy. My sons ought to study mathematics and philosophy, geography, natural history, naval architecture, navigation, commerce, and agriculture in order to give their children a right to study painting, poetry, music, architecture, statuary, tapestry, and porcelain. So we study voting trends and we study voting law, so that in the future, your kids can study something that they care about, and so that their kids can study stuff that they like. But ultimately we're in this cycle where we're either going to fix the elections issue, or we're just going to enjoy 4 years of Trump. Actually, it'll be the first 2 years of Trump, and then it'll be a midterm blow up. And then there will be the 2028 election, where God knows what's going to happen. Organically, the political future looks good for people who support an America First policy set. Organically, there's more and more people that are drawn to it. There are very few groups of people that are moving the opposite direction. So the Democrats are basically Blockbuster Video or Sears right now. And they have to change the way they do business in order to stay in business. And they will do that because they have the cover of the media and the political establishment and all the people that funnel money into politics so they can control it. So, we have to continue to push this, but we have to.
Look at you, Joel. Nice.
Look, we have to aim small and miss small on this. It can't be all this wild flailing all over the place, chasing PCAPs or chasing this or chasing that. It's voter registration. It's paper. It's mail-in balloting. It's the laws, all these laws. And I've been on my Substack right now. I put the anatomy of a red state today. And that was, what are the laws that are in red states that make states red? I'm going to do one for the blue states too. It's very obvious. So anywhere you've got bad registrations, a lot of mail-in voting, lots of time to count, and ballot harvesting, you got a blue state.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much for your insight, Captain. Thank you. People in the chat are saying thank you for your time. We do appreciate it. And we are looking for, look at you. Oh my gosh, Joel, you're on it. There is Captain K. Captain K's Corner on Substack. Anatomy of a Red State. There is his article. Look at you. You are just on it.
Scroll down on that, Joel. Scroll down on that, Joel. Down. So those are, actually go back up a little bit. Those 8 things right there, those are the 8 key demerits that I was assessing for. I would look at all demerits, and then I got to the end of it, and I found that there were typically 8. So automatic voter registration, ballot harvesting, excessive mail-in voting, prolonged count, same-day voter registration, unique corruption, and no voter ID. So I think I might have missed one in there. Go down, and you can see here on the graphic of these red states. There they are. There's your automatic voter registration, ballot harvesting, excessive mail-in voting, prolonged counting, ranked choice voting. Okay, that's the one I left off the top. And then same-day voter registration, unique corruption, no voter ID. And then I created another column, whether or not I thought there was substantial manipulation in the 2024 race. And then I assessed the demerits. So these are what red states look like. The average is 1.7 demerits per state. So red states are low on demerits. You can see some of them have 0. Like Ohio has 0 demerits in the 2020. And the reason I listed it as, or 2024, the reason I listed it as marginal is because I established anything over 11 electoral votes, I'm going to call at least a grade 2, because there's so many House seats that can be manipulated. But this is what is common with red states: control over voter registration and control over mail-in balloting.
Nice. Thank you, Captain, for your time. Please give all my love to the wife and the kiddos. And I'm looking forward to and hoping you'll be able to come back and share with us on a
Let's
somewhat
plan
regular.
on making this a regular thing.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. My Substack article today, it's open to everybody. But if you could become a paid subscriber, you'll help my mission out a lot. So thank you.
Awesome. We need this guy in the fight. We cannot send him back to the corporate world. We need him on the election integrity front. So consider becoming $6 a month or $60 a year.
I can't corporate world. I don't know who's going to hire me unless it's a patriot.
That's true. That's so true. All right. Good night, my friend. I'll see you on the trail. We'll be in touch.
Right.
Oh, love that guy. It's like my little brother. Okay. Let's get into, I have a ton of, that was amazing. Oh my gosh. I just love him. I'm going to try to do this in 20 minutes, wrap up all the other things we wanted to talk about. I wanted to hit a ton of current events, but before I do that, a couple videos. Joel, cue up the Chasing American Legends. Couple classes I want to let you know about that are coming up through Patriot Academy. Of course, if you've been watching this for a while, you know my slogan is education is key, the fix is local. Had it not been for Patriot Academy's Constitutional Live class that Karen and I took together in the fall of 2020, there would be no Audit the Vote in Pennsylvania. And so that is the start, is we have to know our rights before we can defend them. Chasing American Legends, we have Trail Life and American Heritage Girls as two new partners with Patriot Academy partner organizations, the non-woke version of Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. And they are partnering with us to do first ever national class with Patriot Academy of Chasing American Legends. Let's roll. There is the graphic. We had Patty Garraby and on our Coaches Corner call last week, the founder of American Heritage Girls. She has an incredible story. In the early 90s, found out that the Girl Scouts of America had taken their pledge to put God first in their life out of their platform. And she felt at that point in time she had to do something about it. So she started American Heritage Girls all the way back in 1993. And I'm just now finding out about it, and go figure, now Girl Scouts is completely off the rails and woke and transgender and everything. And praise the Lord for people like Patty, who came alongside and said, we gotta make something to raise up good, godly girls. So I'm looking forward to digging more into that. Of course, I have 3 daughters, and so I want to dig more into that to see if it's something we should participate in. And then Trail Life, like I mentioned, is the non-woke version of the Boy Scouts. So, Joel, see if you can play the video.
The American story is filled with legends, myths, and heroes that are larger than life, including true stories that are simply unbelievable. We're the Green family, and for years we've been traveling the country sharing the stories that shaped America.
You don't have to look far when it comes to a hero. All you have to do is look in history.
We're chasing the truth about the heroes of our past and finding answers for the future.
So that class starts on Monday, January 20th, Inauguration Day, which we're going to talk about in a second. Huge day coming up, 5 days. January 20th, 8 Eastern. Joel has the link. I don't know if you want to put it, if we did a QR code or what we got for that, but there is a registration link. It is free. They're going to do it in 5 or 6 weeks. Don't quote me. How do I not know this? I don't know how many weeks they broke it out into, but it's going to be amazing. Get your tweens and your teens there. They will be entertained and inspired to learn more about the real American history. And then the other class I want to mention is my biblical citizenship class, which is going to start the same week, next week, on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do the 5-week lunch break version of biblical citizenship in modern America. So if you took the 8-week course and thought that the videos were a little long, or you just haven't had a chance to take it yet and you've wanted to, scan this QR code where it'll take you to the registration page and you can sign up for free, and you'll join me and some of the other Patriot Academy coach team folks. Certainly I will get Rick Green to pop in one of the sessions for our after party discussion, Patriots Anonymous, where we keep each other sane when we have to interact with the lunatic liberals, which are different, by the way, from what I consider a classical liberal. Very, very different. And we keep each other sane and encouraged with a weekly dose of our conservative fellowship. Thursday nights, 8 p.m. We're going to do BibSit, the lunch break version. Scan that QR code and register. And Joel, you can play the quick video of that. And then we'll just start rolling into some fun current events because we got 5 days.
Welcome to Biblical Citizenship in Modern America, the lunch break version, which means we're slicing and dicing this full 8-week biblical citizenship course down to 5 days that you can do during your lunch break all in 1 week. You're going to enjoy it. Now, the bad news is you're going to miss out on a lot of the great teaching that's in the full 8-week version. So every day as you're going through the course, I know you're going to be thinking about people that you know need to hear and see these things as well. So I'm going to encourage you to host the full 8-week course right there in your home, in your living room, or maybe at your church or somewhere else in the community. But for now, let's get to lunch and let's get to the first day of biblical citizenship. Now, I know you see a particular meal sitting here. We're not sponsored by anybody. If you happen to know a chicken business that might want to sponsor, if you're having your biblical citizenship lunch break version at a particular chicken business, encourage them to send the donations to patriotacademy.com. And by the way, I have never had a bad waffle fry in my entire life. There's a reason for that. There's a formula that produces through a franchise the same waffle fries every time. That's why they always taste good. So if you know the formula, you can get a good result. We're about to find the formula for how you get a good society, a good neighborhood, a good state, a good nation where you want to raise your family. Let's go study that formula and let's become good biblical citizens.
So cool. Was just on a call with that man today. He is an incredible communicator. It's amazing what the Lord is doing through him and his wife, Kara, and the entire Green family with Patriot Academy. So go to patriotacademy.com to see more about what they do. Tons of programs. Their new curriculum going to be coming out. It's going to be a really good couple of years as we head into the 250th anniversary celebration of the Declaration of Independence. So current events. Oh my goodness. Let me pull up my agenda. Well, first thing, as we're about to be rid of the illegitimate regime, otherwise known as the Biden administration. And so, Joel, if you could pull up that video of Joe Biden's outgoing message, she's basically
my farewell address tonight. I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before, more than a century ago. But the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy. They just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to.
Oh my gosh, get rid of how many people are you excited about getting rid of? Can we like slap his face? You usurped the Constitution. You got there illegitimately in the first place. And I am so excited to be rid of the administration. Gaslighting at its finest, folks. There it was. Basically trying to say that the incoming administration is doing everything that they've been doing for the last 4 years. Projection at its finest. 5 days. Be in prayer, please, with President Trump and his family and the entire administration. We have all been saying for a while now that it's a little bit too quiet on the left, that the deep state is just not going to go quietly. And so no one really knows what the heck they've got planned. I know we're speculation that Inauguration Day is going to be crazy. And could they try some type of lunatic stuff? So if you are not already doing some type of prayer or fasting or daily devotion for our country and the peaceful transition of power, next week on the 20th, I strongly encourage you to do that. Oh, it's going to be a great week. Rolling into the confirmation hearings that are happening this week. So President Trump starts appointing people for different high-level positions. And the two that I've been following, Pete Hegseth was yesterday, the department to head the Department of Defense, be the Secretary of Defense, which is basically the person in charge of the military industrial complex. Very, very important position, one that is going to need heavy audits and deep dives into in order to tear that apart and stop the endless wars. My circle says that Pete Hegseth is a great pick. Of course, he got tortured. I know we have a video that Joel's going to play really quick, or a graphic. Pete Hegseth has been tortured by the lefty lunatic Democrats in the Senate this week, attacked him every which way they possibly could. I think he handled it really well. I saw a couple of
veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they signed on the dotted line to keep us safe, just like
Oh my God. How do people like, oh, can you believe that was his week? Like, make it stop. Oh my gosh, make it stop. He did an incredible job. My last I checked on my X feed said that his confirmation is imminent. I'll have to see if there's any updates. They did not confirm him just yet, but it's looking good for Pete Hegseth to become the next Secretary of Defense. And then, of course, the Attorney General to replace the corrupt Merrick Garland is Pam Bondi. She was on the docket today, and she's someone that prior to now I didn't know a whole lot about, but my circle is saying is another really good, solid pick. Joel, I can't remember if I sent you a video that we could play of her.
Joe Biden had the majority of votes, electoral votes necessary to be elected president in 2020.
You know, Senator, all I can tell you as a prosecutor is from my firsthand experience. And I accept the results. I accept, of course, that Joe Biden is president of the United States. But what I can tell you is what I saw firsthand when I went to Pennsylvania as an advocate for the campaign. I was an advocate for the campaign, and I was on the ground in Pennsylvania, and I saw many things there. But do I accept the results? Of course I do. Do I agree with what happened? And I saw so much, you know, no one from either side of the aisle should want there to be any issues with election integrity in our country. We should all want our elections to be free and fair, and the rules and the laws to be followed.
I think that question deserved a yes or no. And I think the length of your answer is an indication that you weren't prepared to answer yes.
So if you followed these hearings this week, that was, we'll get into my thoughts on that in a second, and how they tried to pin these people and pigeonhole them into answering a certain way that they could use against them. That appears to be them trying to get Pam Bondi to say that the 2020 election was completely free and fair. I saw another clip on her take on the January 6th pardons and how she felt about that. I've been in close contact with my great friend, Sarah Maccabee. Hopefully Colton Maccabee, her husband, is soon to be pardoned and released next week. I can't imagine the anticipation she must be feeling. But this particular segment with Pam Bondi was them trying to make her sound like one of the election deniers, our favorite election deniers. And it's funny that she mentions I was on the ground in Pennsylvania. And yes, she did see what happened here. But just this week, Joel, if you'd bring up the Peter Berniger tweet that I had shared on X, speaking of them trying to make this sound like the 2020 election, they're still with that narrative. It was fine. Everything was totally fine. It was actually not totally fine. That is a email from I want to read Peter Berniger's tweet. This is the email that proves basically his analysis of what he is saying. Pull up his tweet so I can explain what this actually is. There was a lawyer that was holed up in a hotel room on November 3rd of 2020 who was controlling the elections and the communication. That was the email proving the communication between the two of them. But Peter Berniger, who is in Wisconsin, put this tweet together. Thank you. This is perfect. This is what that email from public records requests indicated is the hidden internet connections at the KI Convention Center in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where the city held its central count on November 3rd, 2020, and let a private attorney from New York, Michael Spitzer Rubenstein, run its election. He had a private router run up to his 8th floor hotel room at the center, use the private connection to monitor the vote counts in real time, then telephoned the Wisconsin 5 corrupt clerks to tell them how many ballots to feed in for Joe Biden's win. Republican Robin Voss shut down Justice Gableman, who already signed the subpoena, which was going to be served within days to Rubenstein. Rubenstein would have had to sit for a sworn deposition. The email here shows the KI Convention Center, I might be screwing up what that's called, telling Rubenstein what the secret passwords would be for those secret internet connections for a public election. If that's not a bombshell, and now you can pull that up, I don't know what is. And yet our Christopher Wray, who just resigned, was the director of the FBI. Yes, there it is. This is the proof of that they were communicating in a hotel room, but nothing was connected to the internet. That was an error. People like me are crazy. Nothing was there was no interference. And the email is right here showing communication from his hotel room on November 3rd of what I just read. I mean, this is absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. And yet last week, 60 Minutes put Christopher Wray, former FBI director, on 60 Minutes. Man, are they running cover for the deep state. And said that he saw there's no evidence that the 2020 election was anything but on the up and up and completely free and fair. And just absolute bonkers that anybody believes these people. Because look at this. So that was Sunday. And then Pete posted this on X just a few days later. And I was like, they're gaslighting. How could anybody possibly think? Is anybody believing that guy? If you watch the 60 Minutes, we're not going to play it, but it just blows. That was the head of the FBI is saying that there's nothing wrong. And so I, for one, cannot wait until they put Kash Patel in that position. I hope he goes in like a bull in a china shop and starts tearing through some of this stuff. So why did nothing happen? Why did nothing come of that? Because no investigation deep dive was done into this. Like they said, the Justice Gableman was removed. This attorney should have sat for a deposition, and this never made it to a courtroom. So this was never able to go through our prosecutory process, our judicial system, so that people could be held accountable and we could get to further deep dives into these situations to find out what actually happened. We never got there. Investigations were stiff-armed in all of the swing states from every angle. And my hope is that with the new administration coming in next week, that investigations will be opened and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what the heck happened. Because I don't know how the heck we can continue to move forward with all the things that are still in place. I think we are blessed, thank you, Jesus, that President Trump pulled out a victory on November 5th. And it looks like that the Lord is granting our nation mercy and going to give us a reprieve and another chance to save the republic. But on the election integrity front, we have so much work to do. Our work is just getting started. Please go to auditthevotepA.com and support us with a monetary donation if you are not already giving something to us on a monthly basis. I don't care if it's $5 a month, $20 a month, $50 a month, whatever you can handle. The first person to do that is going to get a free t-shirt of your choosing. And so I watch that every week as we do the show, and I get an email as soon as a new donation, a regular recurring monthly donation comes in. We are restructuring Audit the Vote, and we are going to be rolling out a whole new plan for the next year, getting us into the midterms of what we're going to tackle and how we're going to tackle it. And every $100 that you donate to our cause gets us at least 5 hours of coordinated on the ground work that we can do that is going to further the mission of bringing transparent elections to the forefront and fighting for election integrity in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So thank you to those who are continuing to donate. Your money is going to good use. We're putting together programs and trainings and processes that are going to ensure we continue this fight for free and fair elections. Let me see if there's anything else. Joel, I'm still just, I always close the show on a funny video. Look at me, 57 minutes. I close the show on a funny video, and I have to admit to my Christian brothers and sisters, don't judge me, I'm starting to like Joe Rogan. I think he's funny. He's crude, raw. Yes, there is cussing, but for some reason, the dude is just cracking me up lately. I watched the Zuckerberg, I think we talked about that last week, the Zuckerberg interview where Zuckerberg is on like a CYA tour running cover for Facebook, making sure that nobody looks below the surface to find out who is actually behind all the censorship stuff. Zuckerberg was on Rogan. I highly recommend watching the last 5 minutes of the Zuckerberg Rogan. He gets owned on there. So Zuckerberg, and then Mel Gibson. I think he had Mel Gibson on, and so I've just been a little bit sucked into Joe Rogan. And I think, you know what? Too bad we can't go back to 2020. I'm just gonna warn you. I think we'll close with the Rogan video because it's just so funny. Forgive me if it's crass, and the kids are hopefully in bed. It's almost 10 o'clock. There is some cussing. There's an F-bomb, which maybe in the future, Joel, we can figure out how to like bleep that stuff out. But I find it so entertaining. So don't play it yet, but cue up the Joe Rogan. Wait. See, don't play it yet, but cue that up because I just find it so funny. I know that Rogan is not like a conservative on our side completely. Oh, this is a great graphic that Joel found this week. He sent this to me and I had to show it to my husband. Go, what the heck is this? This is California before and after the fires. This is why you don't sit out local elections. They matter. Absolutely. Because your city council, your school boards, your county commissioners have a lot of control over your daily life. And a clearer picture of why elections matter, I don't think exists. This is prime time right here. Oh my gosh. And we have primaries coming up. May the 20th is Pennsylvania's primary election where judge of elections are going to be on the ballot. That is the head honcho at the precinct where you vote on election day. If you want to be somebody who runs the election, start looking into that. We're going to start putting out training materials, but May the 20th is our next primary. 2025, don't sit it out. Become a super voter. Know that there's an election every 6 months. I will never forget early 2021, Karen and I on the phone with some of our state reps who were just starting to educate us and telling us that, there's an election every 6 months. And her and I both were like, there is? That's good to know. There is an election every 6 months. May 20th of 2025 is our primaries. And then, of course, the following November, there'll be a municipal election where there's going to be 3 judge retentions that you can vote no on so that we can try to get a sane constitutional ruling Supreme Court back in the state of Pennsylvania. Vital to vote no on those 3 judge retentions so that in 2027 we have a shot of getting some good constitutional judges on the court. Okay, I'm going to look at the comments. If there's any questions, yes, Lola Days, do feel free to pray for the safety of those. It is absolutely imperative that we are in prayer because it's going to be a nut house. I don't see any questions or anything I need to answer. I know the Allegheny Sam DeMarco mess. I've heard Jason Ritchie is, I have mixed emotions about that because he supported Audit the Vote heavily when it wasn't popular to support us in 2021 when we were gathering petition signatures. And so I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we'll discuss that offline. If you got any questions, let's see. I'm over an hour. I went over, son of a gun. All right. Don't judge me on this Rogan video if you don't think it's funny, okay? I think it's funny. I hope you laugh. If you don't, it's okay. I'll see you next Wednesday night. I am going to the inauguration on the 20th. Hubby and I will be at a ball on the Monday evening and pray for our safety. And are we still trying to repeal Act 77? Absolutely, Sadie. That has to happen. It's just with the political landscape, it's not going to happen in the next 2 years. Maybe in the next 4 years because we have a Democrat House. So that is what we're prioritizing at Audit the Vote is breaking things out into chunks and realizing this is a long-term battle that's going to take a decade or more to really fix. And what can we get done in the next 2 years, 4 years, and on that will get us towards that end. If you have any ideas of otherwise how the heck we can go about repealing Act 77, we're all for it, but we've looked at that from multiple angles, and I don't think that is a reasonable, or I should say reasonable, it's not a feasible goal that we'll be able to do in the next 2 years, but it does absolutely have to happen. And yes, thank you, Ron. Let's get rid of the liberal judges. Amen. Get rid of the liberal judges so that when we bring court cases that need a constitutional, level-headed, not legislating from the bench opinions. All 3 of these liberal judges that we're telling people to vote no on were part of not letting President Trump's lawsuits go forward in the Commonwealth of 2020. So they are one of the reasons why things did not get looked at. And his lawsuits were just thrown out on, well, you don't have standing. No merits of the case. We never got to a discovery phase. So we got to get rid of these judges so we can get some good constitutional judges in there. I am 3 minutes over. It is an hour. Okay, Joel, cue the video and don't judge me. I hope you laugh.
This is a true story. One time, I just woke up. I'm in my underwear. I plop down in front of the TV. I turn it on. The moment I turn it on, Prince Harry's talking shit about me. I'm like, I just woke up. I'm vulnerable. I'm in my underwear, and there's a prince on TV. Do you know how fucking weird it is when a prince knows your name? He's like, Joe Rogan's giving out dangerous vaccine misinformation. And my first thought was, fuck, did I? I might have. But here's my take on that, sincerely. If you're getting your vaccine advice from me, is that really my fault? Like, who are we protecting? Who's out there going, yo, you know that dude who made people eat animal dicks on TV? How's he feel about medicine? Like, that's not my job, kids. I'm a professional shit talker, okay? Some of the things I say make sense, a lot of them don't. It's up to you to figure out what's what. That's the fun part.
Okay. Oh, the F-bomb. I'm not a cusser, so the F-bomb even gets me, but it's funny. And Rogan, he's anti, this is why I'm going to play that. He went after Zuckerberg hardcore because Zuckerberg tried to defend his stance on the COVID vaccine, saying that I still think it's by and large a good idea to get the COVID vaccine. And Rogan rips into him and says, yeah, if it worked, but it doesn't. And he just rattles off all this facts. And I just, I love it. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but there's just something about that guy that some things I'm in his corner. So I hope you got a lot out of tonight. Enjoyed yourself. Thank you for everybody for watching. I will see you guys next week with President Trump at the helm as Commander-in-Chief. Have a great week, everybody. Good night.